Let's walk through installation of Connect for Kentico and set up a connector for Marketo. For this walkthrough, we're going to assume you've already installed the toolkit and have it updated to the latest version. We've logged in as an administrator and selected the toolkit. We'll choose Install Extension for Connect to start the process. You may need Windows credentials to install the module, but in this case, we're running local, so we'll just click Install Now. The toolkit will warn us that this may cause a recompile of the site. We'll click Install Now to continue the process. Once the recompile is complete, we'll be brought to the Toolkit menu and it will show us that Connect has been installed. We'll go back to the menu and we'll launch Connect. Next, we're going to set up a connector. Essentially, this will allow us to enter the settings that define a connector to a CRM or a marketing automation system. In our example here, we're going to set up a connector for Marketo. We'll name the connector Marketo Sandbox, choose the Marketo connector type, and make sure the connector is enabled. Once we've saved the connector, the settings for the connector type will appear. For Marketo, there are a few pieces of information you'll need in order to set up the connector. It's important to note that full admins in the Marketo system will have access to the Munchkin ID, Client ID, and client secret information required to set up the connector. You will need all three pieces of information to set up the connector for Marketo. Along with the three pieces of information here, you will also need to include the Munchkin JavaScript snippet, as Marketo requires the snippet on all pages to track activity. To set this up, we need to go to the Settings application where we'll see a Connect Settings item in the tree. Expand the tree to reveal the Marketo connector and select it. Here, you will enter in the Marketo provided JavaScript. You could add an HTML web part to the master page and add the code there if you would prefer. However, through the settings here, you can just add the Munchkin init line and Connect will add in, via output filter, the JavaScript snippet to the head tag. This can eliminate messing with the master page, or if your site has multiple master pages, dealing with adding the code to the variants. The box provided here is larger to allow for additional options available by Marketo. For our example, we'll use just the init code. With the Marketo Munchkin code in place, we'll need to restart the application for the settings to take effect. With all the Marketo information in place, we've gotten the connector set up and it's time to map our form fields to Marketo fields. Launch the Forms application and select the form you want to send data to. We'll use the Try a Free Sample form in the Dancing Goat example site. We're going to edit the form and select the Connectors tab that's been added with the Connect extension. Hit the New Connector Process button to start a new process. Here we'll select the data we want to send over, which in our case is our form data. We'll choose our Marketo connector. And finally, we'll select the entity to send data to. With the Marketo API, we only have the option to send data to the leads entity. With our entity selected, the system will pull field information from the Marketo Metadata API. This will give us the option to select from the fields available to map to. Once the fields are pulled in, the Connect extension will do its best to match existing form fields to the entity fields like first name, last name, email address, etc. It looks like our fields are matched pretty well here. Form fields that are required are noted in bold with a red asterisk. Marketo only has one field required, and it is a unique field to Marketo called Program. For this field, we'll choose from our dropdown Static Value and give it a value of BizStream. You can name this whatever you want. If you're familiar with Marketo, you may already have a program name to add. We'll click Save. Finally, we'll set up another specific field to Marketo called Cookies. This is a special field for macros. Connect supports macros in the fields that use static value in the field type. The Cookies field isn't required, however, it is suggested as this lines up activity tracking data to the form data. To get the macro, use the help text at the top of the field mapping to reveal and copy it. With the macro in place, we've now set up the form to push data to Marketo. Let's hit the Try a Free Sample page and test out our form. We'll go ahead and fill out the form and submit. Our form submission was successful. To validate, we can check the event log and see the transactions that have occurred. Here we can see the form object has been created, and just above, Connect sent data to Marketo. We can see in the event detail the data sent to the Marketo API. If the same email is sent to Marketo, the API is smart enough to update the data, not create a new record. Let's take a look inside Marketo. Here we can see the new lead added and view it for more detail. If we check the activity log, we can see that Marketo is now tracking activity since the form was filled out and it knows the user. Setting up connectors for Dynamics 365 and Zoho are just as easy. However, if you have any questions, please contact us using the support section of our website at toolkitforkentico.com.